Hey, welcome to Film Fanatics. My name is Dan.
My name is Justin.
And I'm Joe.
This week, one of the most controversial movies of the year finally hits the big screen. That is Ghostbusters. Bryan Cranston is the Infiltrator and the director and writer of Once, and Begin Again brings us another music-themed film, Sing Street. First up, though, of course, is we got to talk about Ghostbusters. Now, this is obviously a reboot of the classic series, this time directed by Paul Feig, starring in the ghost-busting roles as Melissa McCarthy, Kristen Wiig, Kate McKinnon, and Leslie Jones as three scientists and the street-smart New Yorker, respectively. And you've got Chris Hemsworth co-starring as the ditzy receptionist played by Annie Potts in the original film. So, before we actually go into our reviews, we've already discussed this movie at length as far back as last summer. I would say no movie this year, and I would include Batman v Superman in this, has garnered more hatred before its release than this film.
Yeah.
About right, yeah.
You know, and this movie didn't need to be made regardless. I think we can all agree with that.
Yeah.
It is sort of a, classic film that stands up. It doesn't need to be made. But we run across many a film that didn't need to be remade or rebooted, or, Joe, you and I can agree on The Amazing Spider-Man 1.
Yeah.
Its existence was
didn't
merely superfluous, but it was still good.
Yeah, I liked it. Yeah.
So all right, so let's talk about the actual movie and how it came off. I think it's good that it veers off in a different direction from the original while keeping the essence of the film. In fact, I would argue that the thing that weighs it down the most are the constant reminders of the original. There's, it's been talked about that obviously there's cameos from just about everybody involved in the original. And, then there's just other things. They run across a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man at one point. They're like, okay, touches. It was so wink that I definitely think it brought it down. The script could also be tighter. McCarthy and Wiig are used to not really reining it in for the cameras.
Yeah.
But perhaps the PG-13 rating dulled their comic timing a bit, which brings me to McKinnon and Jones, who are best known for being on SNL and really doing PG-13 type comedy.
Yeah.
I think both of these ladies stole the show. I think they're the highlights of this film.
I agree.
Yeah.
Hemsworth, I think, is also very, very funny.
He had some good songs.
As the receptionist, they gave him some good lines. I don't know if the villain is the most effective I've seen. Certainly doesn't stack up to the original. And I do think Feig might struggle a little bit with some of the action sequences, but as we saw with Spy, he's sort of coming along with that. Justin doesn't agree. He doesn't like the action parts of Spy, and that's
hey, remember, I like the heat.
Well, no, it's just...
Yeah, the heat.
he
doesn't like the heat at all.
I know.
My comment is still the same. Like, Spy is more violent than Skyfall, so...
Yeah, but in a funny way. Come on, mister, that's comparing apples to oranges. We're going to compare Spy to Skyfall.
Both spy movies, but...
True, very true.
And comedies.
No. Depends on who you ask. The 3D effects are fantastic in this. They really made use of going outside the scope of the picture for the 3D effects. And I do think it's very, very funny. So I did have some flaws with it, but I really, really enjoyed it. Did it need to be remade? Of course not. But it was. So I liked it. What'd you guys think?
I'll go next.
I'd like to hear from Joe. He doesn't look like he liked it.
I thought it'd be good.
Well, all right. Okay, I will say that, as you mentioned, Dan, there was a lot of hate for this one before it came out. And I didn't really feel quite as much of it, maybe because Ghostbusters isn't like one of my all-time favorite movies necessarily.
Okay.
But I do think it's a classic that, once again, didn't really need to be touched. So that always kind of hurts these things when they go in. You got a lot to live up to. And does it live up to that movie? No.
But it was never going to.
No. But I'm not going to ignore the fact that it doesn't.
Okay.
You're right. Now, taking it for what it is, I tend to like Feig. And I think he obviously knows these women well. His cast, he directs them well. I think most of the comedy's pretty good. I thought the action was pretty smooth for the most part. I actually, even when the trailers came out, I thought the ghosts were okay. I didn't mind the effects. Now, I saw it in 2D, but I still thought visually it looked pretty decent, all things considered. I thought most laughs were pretty good consistently. I thought it was enjoyable, and I thought it worked well overall, but I can't say that, it comes close to the original in that sense.
Okay.
So, for what it is, I did kind of like it, I guess, but begrudgingly so. And I will admit, all those little winks I thought that Jurassic World
gets
was bad.
obnoxious.
It gets like, and once again, that's
Yeah,
the
that's a
problem
good comparison.
What you do is like, and Jurassic World, it bothered me, and there weren't that many. But here, once again, a little homage is fine, but you get it stuffed in there. You just want to watch the original movie,
Right.
and once again, why am I watching this if I could just watch the original like you do all the time? So I wish they had cut back the Marshmallow. Come on, Stay Puft. Did he really need to be there?
No.
The villain, and I agree, is not the best, but I like the fact that he was significantly different than the
That's what I liked about
the more
it a lot.
supernatural element from the
Right.
first movie. It's a little more grounded,
Right.
added a little different motivation, which is a little, I guess, more accessible in a way.
Okay.
But I can't say he was great necessarily, but he worked for the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I agree.
I guess it was good, but it's definitely not great.
Okay.
Well, gentlemen, I feel like we found easily the perfect metaphor for the summer in one feature-length movie. A movie that's just trying desperately to burst to life, like this entire summer selection. And you're waiting, and you're waiting, and you're waiting. And you don't regret the experience, but you don't feel like you really got anything out of it either. Such is my experience watching Ghostbusters. I don't want to say I felt this movie missed the mark because it was an all-female cast. That's definitely not it. The reason I personally feel like this movie monumentally missed the mark is it just didn't feel like a Ghostbusters movie. Like, the first two were kind of established as these sort of horror comedies. Like, yeah, they were funny, yeah, there were some action sequences, but there was this kind of, like, genuinely spooky angle to it, too. This doesn't have an even moderately frightening bone in its body.
I'm going to disagree with that. I jumped actually a couple of times.
And what scenes I felt did were basically shoehorned in from other movies in homage form, and I thought it was kind of irritating.
I thought it was kind of watered down in those areas, to be honest.
Agreed. It had moments where it was funny, but it was incredibly touch and go with, I'm just going to call it, the villain of Ghostbusters 2016 is quite possibly the worst villain we have ever watched in the entirety of Film Fanatics. I apologize to Lee.
What?
I think
I thoroughly apologize to Lee Pace as Ronan the Accuser. He is
What?
he is Elijah Price
Oh my
compared
God.
You
to
mean-
this villain.
you mean in terms
he
of,
is that bad.
Well, to be fair, Ghostbusters didn't exactly have the most complex villains in general.
No, but
To
at
be
least there was
fair.
like build up. At least there was development. This
still
guy
didn't
is
have
just so
sorry.
much
tacked on and lazy.
Christoph Waltz in the last Bond movie is way worse than this dude. And I like Christoph Waltz, but if
well,
we're going to compare
well,
don't get me wrong, he's bottom
compare
five,
Puff
but-
Fig movies to Bond movies.
Well, I mean, in terms of in terms of motivation, I mean, I can't say it was executed well, but once again,
At least he
Fair
had
enough.
motivation. This guy is just like
look,
dumb. Then they decide he's not said individual. Then he is said individual, and
sometimes you got to be evil, man. Sometimes you just got to be. What? Look,
it's just bad. It's
look,
really, really bad.
in a sense, Ghostbusters is kind of cartoony, and sometimes you can have a cartoony villain. They don't all have to be layered. It's true. Ronan the Accuser, great example. One-dimensional, but great one-dimensional villain. Revenge. So this is
Revenge for a ridiculous reason,
But my point is, if I'm not for Ronan, I guess, but different movie, but still, goofy. I'm fine with it. He served his purpose well. I thought he was okay.
Yeah, I thought he was
It was
okay. I thought he served his purpose.
Personally, I prefer the villain from Ghostbusters 2, but that's
Ghostbusters 2 probably has.
the most interesting villain.
Yeah.
I know you haven't seen
Well,
it.
that's the one I haven't seen yet, so I can't speak to
He's probably more complex than Zool even. There's a little more, a little
Strangely enough, yeah. It's been ages since I've seen Ghostbusters 2, but I know what you mean.
evil painting. Always good.
Indeed. But no.
Actually, Justin, I'm curious.
Go on.
I know you're not totally dumb, but you said it didn't feel like a Ghostbusters movie. I am curious. Does that have anything to do with the fact that it is totally missing all those characters we knew? Because you could argue that those characters make the Ghostbusters movies, even the game.
Not really. I mean,
You sure? Because that could be a problem for some people.
no. I mean, I like that kind of. I like that kind of supernatural horror, but funny supernatural horror. Sort of in the same vein as, dare I say it, pardon the dated reference, but The Frighteners. This one, I just felt like I was watching supernatural action comedy, which is fine, but I don't feel like that's Ghostbusters. And gets even worse when we get the abysmal Fall Out Boy cover. But
oh, come on, man.
it's bad. It's
used very sparingly in the movie, though.
That seems like
it's not like they play even like the whole verse. Yeah,
it's always a song. You know, if there's a song that he hates, oh man, points go. I understand.
I mean,
it starts with the original theme song, which is great.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that.
Yeah. It does, and then they feel like, okay, let's bring in the contemporary remix for basically no reason.
Well, it was made for this film, so that's the reason.
And for younger viewers that maybe don't know.
No, it's a terrible song. It's fine. It's a terrible song.
It's not great.
But it's used quite sparingly in the film.
Yes, I don't even remember that.
It's like maybe 40 seconds.
To be honest.
But for me, the other big issue is I do like the new characters to varying degrees, but we really don't get a whole lot of context with them. Example. Probably about halfway through the movie, there's this really strange tonal shift for about, I'm going to say 2 minutes, and we get, I'm just going to say it, fairly dark character beat about Kristen Wiig's character. Yeah. Never referenced again throughout the rest of the movie. Never talked about, holds absolutely no context, and I was waiting for this scene to like hold some water or like foreshadow something else going on. Not even bothered.
Why did it have to be discussed further, though?
At least they gave her a
they gave her a little backstory.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, this character's going to go deeper. No, okay, one note.
I don't know if the
they didn't go very deep in the original Ghostbusters either.
To be honest, they're more, just alive.
No, but if you're going to go that, you need to commit to it. Is my point. And I feel like this one kind of missed the mark.
I could see that.
Honestly, my favorite out of the four was probably McKinnon, and she was basically walking punchline for the entire thing. Effective walking punchline, but walking punchline nonetheless.
Mm-hmm. But she didn't have any backstory.
No, and that also led into big issue.
Right, but you didn't like Kristen Wiig's backstory because they didn't then go back to it. I mean, it's a backstory. They don't need to reference it again.
It'd be nice if they did. They could build upon it.
They could, but I mean, I think that would be not in the spirit of Ghostbusters.
That would be a little...
To be honest.
Well, if they want to try something different, maybe make it stand out as its own thing. But then maybe it wouldn't be Ghostbusters because Ghostbusters doesn't really do that typically. So,
yeah.
See, it's finding the definition of what is a Ghostbusters movie is...
I think this did feel like a Ghostbusters movie.
I think it felt like a watered-down Ghostbusters movie.
Well, and that's... Yeah, when you said that, I think the reason it's watered down is because the studio was originally gunning for a PG. And it's sort of like the movie, you didn't see this film, Joe, but Daddy's Home that Justin and I saw was clearly supposed to be a PG movie, and then they added this subplot about a sperm donor, and it became PG-13. But every joke in that movie is PG-based.
Yeah.
And I felt the same about this movie. I personally didn't think it was that watered down just because the original is PG.
But it's 80s PG.
But it's 80s PG, true.
But,
But, I mean, look at the language in this movie. They say the S word once and literally nothing else.
Well, I thought they were trying to cater to a more family environment because that's what Ghostbusters is.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird in an extent.
Hey, the 5-year-old in my audience loved it.
Which is fine, and that's great. It's just, and I'm fine with Feig getting a project like this with his cast that he likes with Wiig and McCarthy. But at the same time, you wonder, like, with McCarthy specifically, typically gunning for being the most crude and outlandish, it was really the best direction to go with Ghostbusters. If you're going to use that comedy, let them do what they do, as opposed to being more restrained. I don't know. I don't know if it. I mean, they were fine. I liked them, but I wonder if there could have been a better crew that you could have worked with that type of rating they were going for. And I don't know, maybe, but I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think to varying degrees you can split the difference. It's just a matter of how do you get there.
Well, I mean, all of these people have been in more restrained projects.
That's true.
I mean, Kristen Wiig obviously came from SNL as well.
Yeah.
Melissa McCarthy of Mike and Molly, Gilmore Girls, St. Vincent. None of these obviously are like
they're big
gut-busting comedy. Well, I guess Mike and Molly was shooting for that, but you're right. I mean, in a grand sense, McCarthy's best known on the big screen for her outrageous foul-mouthed stuff. But to be honest, we've talked about this on her last few movies, The Boss and Tammy. It's sort of getting old. Losing the shtick a little bit might be good.
Maybe.
So, here I agree. It wasn't as effective as I think it could have been, which is why McKinnon and Jones, for me, stole the show. Favorite cameo? Mine was Potts. Because she played another receptionist. Which I thought was very funny.
I'm always fine with Crazy Aykroyd.
Okay, yeah, Aykroyd, okay.
Aykroyd's pretty awesome.
I'm probably right with you on Potts, actually.
Yeah, I thought Potts was very funny. All right, well, that's going to wrap up the Ghostbusters chat. I really enjoyed it. This was in my, almost my top 5 most anticipated. It was my honorable, because I really, after the first preview, didn't know. But I really enjoyed it. I give it a B+.
C.
B-.
All right. Up next is The Infiltrator, and that is with Joe.
The Infiltrator is a crime drama based on the autobiography of Robert Mazur, a U.S. Customs special agent in the 80s, who helped to bust Pablo Escobar's money laundering organization by using the alias Bob Mazula back in the 80s. The film stars Mr. Cranston. You guys know him from what show? Come on. He
Malcolm in the Middle.
I was going to say, clearly.
Yes.
Or Seinfeld. The anti.
Yes. Bryan Cranston from Malcolm in the Middle as Mazur, and features Benjamin Bratt as a villain, and Leguizamo and Amy Ryan also co-star. Now, I found out upon a little research that this movie was directed by the same individual who directed The Lincoln Lawyer, which is a film that I rather enjoyed.
I do like Lincoln Lawyer.
Yeah.
He also did Runner, which is a movie with basically nothing going on that was bad, which you guys remember is one of my better reviews.
Yeah.
I remember Justin loved that one. So this movie, as you might suspect, is kind of in between the two.
Mm-hmm.
Cranston almost doesn't even need to be stated as a great actor, and he does a really good job here. I really enjoyed him in this movie, kind of because he has to play 2 roles, the agent and also his alias, subverting with the more shady criminal elements.
And the Family Man.
And the Family Man as
really
well.
3.
So 3. You get to see different aspects of this guy's life, and I like it when an actor's able to put off multiple layers. And I mean, as we know, Leguizamo was always fun to see. I mean, I always enjoy him. And Bratt plays a pretty decent villain, if not a little cartoony, but they're threatening enough. Bratt's fine too. And everything.
Well, he had to show up. It's a movie about Mexican people.
Of course,
I mean...
Yeah, and Miss Congeniality was about Mexican people too.
No, he just you need a good go-to Hispanic Benjamin Bratt.
And it's funny you bring that up because apparently Leguizamo is going to play Pablo Escobar in a movie in the near future.
Is that right?
So maybe this is some getting himself in the mode. So
interesting.
There we go. But everything else about this movie flows pretty well, mostly from a plot perspective, and generally works pretty okay. Now, I tend to like these sorts of films, I admit, and it reminded me a lot of one of my constant name drops of the show, Donnie Brasco. Kind of with that.
It's been a while since we've heard that one.
But I had to bring it up. Yeah. It's a classic. So in that sense, for this kind of story, it does feel kind of standard, like we've been down it before. Mm-hmm. But I think it explored enough avenues to kind of elevate itself above it. So I actually really enjoyed it quite a bit. I'm curious to see what you guys thought.
Cranston's talent goes without saying, but I think this is a different kind of... This really does show how versatile he is. Obviously, we have Trumbo, we have his endless TV credits. This is him going much more into crime drama, and I think for the most part it works. He really does drive this movie forward. Where I think this falls short is, I think the running time is way too long, and even though the director who did do The Lincoln Lawyer, which was a great movie, he does a lot of really weird shots that are cool. But I found myself wondering more often than not,
why isn't it in there?
Yeah, why is this here?
Because it's cool.
It's compelling, and it's...
Well, look, it's better than the editing of Runner. Remember?
Well,
yeah, true.
Yeah.
Then again, a 30-minute shot of watching paint dry would be far more engaging than Runner. But
truth be spoken.
But no, this was a movie that really came together because of the people involved. Cranston did a good job. Leguizamo did a good job. Bratt...
He did.
Yeah, he's fine.
I mean, the problem, I think, is mostly everybody's doing a good job, but it doesn't really break any new mold in the undercover police officer storyline.
You're not wrong.
And, I mean, it comes together nicely, and there's never a bad time to use Eminence Front, but...
I thought you were going to say infiltrate Cranston for some reason. That's where my mind went. I don't know what that means exactly.
But no, I left relatively satisfied with this one.
Cool.
Yeah, the Who bit was great. I can't deny that. Cranston's great. I mean, I think Cranston is the only reason this movie works, if it works.
Okay.
For me, it kind of worked. It's like right on that line, though. Leguizamo was great, proving again, very versatile character actor. He's always a great friend or great coworker.
Partner, yeah.
Partner, druggie.
If you need one.
One of the bright spots in American Ultra. But there's a lot going on in this movie.
There is.
I think that there's too many characters floating in and out with no explanation of who they are. And yet, Justin's right, it's too long. You gotta either, it's kind of like Black Mass in that regard.
I was just about to say...
Black Mass is a much better film.
Yeah.
But in terms of
jumps around a lot,
jumping around, not knowing who so and so is,
See,
and
I like
why
that,
they're getting killed. And
I like kind of seeing all the different aspects, to be honest.
I like the different aspects, but you have to let me know who's who.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. There was one point, I think like a third of the way into this movie, where Leguizamo's character is off screen for a long period of time, and I'm thinking, isn't he supposed to be like his partner?
Yeah, that's true.
Where'd he go?
Disappear.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I don't know how close this veers to reality, but there seems to be a lot of places where Cranston would have clearly been busted.
From what I understand, this is only like...
This is quite a fictional
this
account,
is
right?
lightly done.
Okay, I sort of figured that, because it just seemed like he was just making mistakes left and right.
But you have to admit, it built up some tension.
Oh, it definitely worked for the film, I guess. But in terms of a real story, I don't know how well it worked. But, I thought it was okay. Cranston really is the thing for me that holds it above water.
It was very good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, with somebody lesser in the role, I don't think it works.
You guys are right. It probably ran on a bit too long.
Mm-hmm.
No,
15 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Not super long.
I did
not
have
significant
that similar
amount,
problem,
but enough.
like comparatively with Black Mass, but I do agree. I think that it's actually very similar, being held up by Depp mostly and jumping around a lot. But
Right,
I agree,
right.
it's definitely better of the two. But but they are very similar in their execution.
Yeah, I agree.
Did the shots bother you as much? The pretentious, fun shots, the artsy shots? I like them.
Not really
personally.
in this one. I mean, it all depends on the way, not only the way they're handled, but the type of film you're going for. This is they really want you to be into the story. You are in this drug deal. You are, you're going on the stakeout too. Yeah, so I think it worked for that.
I thought so. I thought it added some atmosphere. But I guess maybe a little too jarring at some points for you, Justin?
Yeah, it was just more or less like, why are we lingering on these various shots? Like, they're well done, they're well composed, but you gotta have some sort of reason to have them hold water.
Maybe.
Yeah, there were once or twice, I will admit, that I sort of thought, like,
let the shot go.
We can move on now.
Yeah, but it's such a good shot, though. Gotta look at it.
Like, there's a time and a place, Jeff.
Yeah.
There is. I don't know, sometimes you just gotta let it go.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh. Let's sing it.
No.
No. It's the summertime. Nope.
True.
Or is it?
All right, well, I leave The Infiltrator with a B-.
Oh.
Justin?
B.
B+ for me.
Ooh, Joe liked it a good bit.
I did.
All right. Justin, time for Sing Street.
All right. Ferdia Walsh Pilo plays Connor, a young boy struggling with his parents' crumbling marriage and the transition from his expensive school to a free state one in Dublin, Ireland. Though things look grim for Connor on his first day, making enemies out of both the school bully and the principal, he finds a friend in an aspiring entrepreneur named Darren, played by Don Wickerly, as the two begin to put a band together to impress the mysterious Rafina, played by Lucy Brighton. Game of Thrones' Aidan Gillen has a supporting role. To lovingly borrow from the director's lesser film Begin Again, you're only as strong as your next move. This time round... I gotta hand it to him. He swung for the fences. Where Begin Again had the music in the right place and the script, I would say not quite so much.
Because of flashbacks.
This one has...
I was going to say zero flashbacks in this.
Gosh.
Justin's least favorite part of Begin Again.
Anywho, this one has a solid story and some great music. Admittedly, it teeters dangerously, and I do mean it when I say dangerously, close to the ever cliche indie let's start a band pedagogy. Sing Street thrives with really a fun story, great characters, and songs that I have to believe are going to be up for Oscars when the time comes. Though that's not without a few minor flaws for me. I thought some of the other supporting characters, like the other bandmates outside of Connor and Darren, are kind of oddly benched. Like the keyboardists, I thought
caricatures,
bordering on, but yes. And alongside that, I feel like they're trying to do a Footloose kind of thing with the quote unquote antagonist, and I just never got the impression that he was as malicious as they're making him out to be. Like, does some questionable things, yes, but as bad as the very reason they're rebelling.
Catholic schools in the 80s, I don't know, Justin.
Well, the one thing that you got to take into account too is, Ireland, 80s.
Yeah.
Religious wars.
Yes, very Catholic.
Yes.
Some England, Ireland, Catholic, Protestant issues, some subtext.
I thought he was completely believable.
I could see they weren't pressing on it too much, but I think you kind of have. I think you might accept it more from an Irish perspective.
Oh yeah, no, and that's why I didn't. I just mentioned that was a flaw. Didn't kill it. By no means did it kill it. For me, probably the biggest flaw that kind of pulled it down letter grade for me. Well, I shouldn't say letter grade. A minor tweaking was the ending, which probably goes on about 2-3 minutes longer than it should. But no, I can see why this is pretty high ranked on most critics' lists out of most of the stuff that's been out for 2016. I'm very curious to see where you guys stood on this one.
Well, I do have to echo Justin for the most part. I think that there's some really good music here. And I think that there is a solid story, coming of age, and I always kind of like seeing the young people get together and make a band. I like those stories, even though they are kind of standard for the indie teen stuff. But I thought it worked well. I really liked the main character. I liked the romance. I thought it played pretty well, which, it has to work well for me if it's forced. I hate it.
Yeah, true.
Worked well, and I liked the side characters, even though they kind of were obviously fitting into little spots. And I liked Littlefinger. I thought he had a couple good lines too, as he often does. I'll never learn his name. But I thought it worked pretty well. The acting was good. The story was good. I think that it was edited and shot pretty well. The only thing that held it back for me from being like the absolute best it could be is because it is a film that is kind of happy and fluffy and feel good and a little cheesy at times. It did
just the right amount of cheese
for the most part, but it did take it out of me out of the movie just a little bit at times. But that's relatively minor. For the most part, I thought it was a rather well executed film. I rather enjoyed it, honestly.
Well, neither of you mentioned one of my favorite characters, which is the brother.
Mm-hmm. The older brother?
Connor's older brother, who plays a very pivotal role in this film. Mm-hmm. And at the end, before the credits start rolling, it says, to all the brothers, whatever.
Yeah. Supporting him, yeah.
Obviously, it was I don't know if it's a love letter specifically to Carney's brother, but very loosely based on Carney's life, by the way.
Of course.
Didn't do the band thing, but he went to this Sing Street school.
Okay.
So it was sort of based a little bit around his experiences there. But
okay,
it is astounding to me how many times that this guy can make the same basic story and yet have it be completely new and fresh. He's taken the same basic template now for 3 movies. Once, Begin Again, and now this, and yet made them all totally different. The acting is fantastic here. The music is great. It captures so many real things. You've got young love, outcasts in school and bullying, sibling and family relations, and then, of course, set against the backdrop of the aspiring music career, and just all of it came together beautifully. I thought there was a great use of both original and established music. Something that I don't think either of his other films did. Once was pretty much just the music of those 2 singers.
Yep.
Whatever their names are. Erglova and I forget the dude's name. But anyway.
No.
And then Begin Again was mostly the songs written for that movie. You had all of the Keira Knightley songs.
Yeah.
And then the Adam Levine big hit. But this combined both time-tested songs and the original material, which I thought was fantastic.
I think I need to see Once now, because I really like
Oh,
both
you've
of
never
them.
seen Once?
You need to see Once.
Once is fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah, it deserves all the accolades. Yeah, I mean, sadly, Justin's not wrong about Begin Again. He just likes it significantly less than us. But Begin Again is the worst of the 3.
I mean,
sure.
I'll admit I liked this more than Begin Again.
Yeah.
But I still really liked Begin Again.
I did as well. But Justin's not wrong when he says that's the the worst of the 3, because it is.
But you know what? I do suspect that had there not been a flashback, things might have been different.
Or laughable
he hated
magical
that part.
realism. But
Yes.
Magical realism.
But I really think the relationship worked. I thought it was cute. I agree, Justin. If there's one flaw that I had with it, it is one of yours, and that is it probably should have ended maybe 2 minutes before it did.
Yeah.
The ending does get a little bit cheesy, but at the same time, it also is open-ended and hopeful and
I was rolling my eyes down.
all of those things. Stop it.
Like,
Joe.
Just a little bit.
they could have had that ending, but left it with enough ambiguity that you could have left satisfied.
Yes, I think without really giving spoilers, I think once they left his brother's apartment, that could have been the end of the film.
Indeed.
Yeah.
He reminded me, though, let's see if you guys got this, but he reminded me of the Nicholas Hoult character in About a Boy, but just a few years older. He had the same, like, kind of mannerisms, the same sort of, dorky quality, I guess.
In a weird way, I see it.
Yeah.
And he doesn't look that dissimilar.
No.
So,
Yeah.
so that sort of gave me a...
Apparently this is like his
Nice.
first performance, too.
Is it really?
For a major one, I believe. So that's pretty impressive, if that's the case.
Oh, yeah.
That's really... I think
Wow.
that was...
I mean, I don't know if he did his own singing, but...
But, I mean, in terms of...
I was just thinking that, but knowing Carney, I would guess he did.
Yeah.
Because, Keira Knightley did, and the Once people did.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So why not?
Yeah, it's certainly possible. I don't know if all of the songs are as strong as in Begin Again from a pop perspective, but they're believable from whence they came. I mean, this 15-year-old's not going to write the next great love song on his first go-around.
No.
So song for song, I don't think maybe they stack up quite as well, but for the plot, it makes more sense.
Right.
That they wouldn't.
No,
Because he's 15.
Right, because he's 15 and not really that adept at writing.
So if he did make the best love song the first go-around, it might take you out of the movie a little bit.
I think it would.
I think it would, too.
And I think one of the best songs in the movie is towards the end, which also makes sense because it's when he has gotten a little bit of experience writing and all of that.
Yeah.
So, that's it. For me, now granted, maybe in a different year, I would feel differently about this because of that little 2-minute ending. But this year's not been great.
Yeah.
I give Sing Street an A+. First one of the year.
Not bad. I leave with an A-.
All right, Joe?
It's interesting. I leave it with an A.
Okay.
Just take out the cheese a little bit. It would have been perfect.
Yeah, I was dangerously close to an A. I couldn't quite go the A+.
A little self-indulgent, but it was very good. I didn't have any major problems with it at all.
Yeah. All right, well, that will do it for the show. Next week, we will have an interesting one, Star Trek Beyond, as we mourn the loss of Anton Yelchin.
But beyond what?
We don't know yet. We're not sure.
I have heard that it actually speaks very strongly to the series' roots and has like a 92 on Rotten Tomatoes, so...
All right,
it's
good.
Curious.
Well, of course, we've been going through a lot of the old series
We have.
on our other show, so... I think that'll be an interesting one to talk about, and of course some other movies as well. You can subscribe to our channel here on YouTube, or you can join us on the Facebook group Film Fanatics with an exclamation point, or the Twitter feed at Film Fanatics Pod. Joe, something to say?
Well, I'm definitely going to be doing some kind of Star Trek review when this one comes out.
Sure.
And since it's towards the end of the month, I've got a couple requested videos out for a couple different things. So yeah, I'll have some videos out. Probably heavily stacked within the last week here.
Okay. Very good.
All right.
All right. Well, that's it for us. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you back here next time.